another trip to the east and another frustrating result. Bloomsburg, you knew going in, and I think we talked about this last week, Coach. We knew going in that you got to avoid the big plays. Jared Griffin-Batchelor, you knew that was a guy that you had to do your best to slow down. You did for a vast majority, but he got you twice, ultimately proving to be the difference. So I guess now that you've had a chance to digest it, look at the film, what's your evaluation? You're a former defensive coordinator, obviously very involved in the defense now. What was the issue with the big plays on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the biggest thing that we struggled with, obviously, is just execution. We're in good calls. We're in calls that if we go out there and we play our best and we do what we're asked to do, we have an opportunity for success. I think we were a little off balance there at times, kind of searching probably a little too deep in the call sheet to find the right calls, especially in the pass game where, the last 2 weekends, unfortunately, 8-man drop, 4-man rush, pressure, you've kind of had some big plays kind of show up. And so anytime you're doing that, you probably end up putting yourself in some situations that you don't like to be in. We've never really been a huge man pressure team in all my years of calling defense, and we probably were in that a little bit too much in some certain situations that catch us on the slot fade. And then the slant that goes to the house, we're in cover 2. We got to do a good job taking away the inside. We're a little gassed. You can see probably not as good in our pursuit as we need to be. So just disappointing. We talk about making teams drive the field. If we got to go 14-play, 15-play drive, we feel like, hey, at some point they're going to make a mistake. They slide the wrong way. They throw one to us, whatever it may be. I mean, you saw it in the opening drive. Yeah, they're kind of chugging us down the field a little bit, but we get them to a second and long, force them into a throw. We get a pick six, and we take it to the house. And so when you do those big plays, obviously you don't allow for those big chunk plays. So we definitely struggled there in that point. Third down was not great for us. Second and long was not great for us again. So we just got to keep cleaning some of those things up. But I'm hopeful. I talked to our offensive staff, our defensive staff. We're coming from 2 places where we had 3-year and 4-year guys that have been in the schemes for a long time. We don't have that. We're definitely at like a grade 1 level offensively and defensively. That savviness is not quite there. So we've got to keep continuing to do a great job coaching to put our guys in the best positions. Are we asking our guys to do things that they can do, that they understand what we're asking to do? Does it make sense to them? And so that's where it comes in coaching. When it's bad, it's the coaches. When it's good, it's the players, and that's where we're at right now. We got to really take a look at everything we're asking our guys to do and making sure that we're putting them in the best position to be successful.
This is sort of a glass half full, glass half empty, but as a defensive guy, it has to just drive you nuts. Third down defense for both teams. I don't know if I've ever seen both teams were well over 50% conversion. I think both teams combined were 100% on fourth down. Yeah. So, I mean, it's good for you half the time. The other half, not so much. But obviously, if you're going to win football games, you got to get off the field.
Yeah. And again, we talk about it every week. They were 8 of 13 on third down. We were 7 of 13, which is great. They were 100% on fourth down, 4th and 2 and 4th and 6, both led to scores. They were 100% in the red zone, right? Again, a team that didn't really have, lost games because they didn't have a field goal kicker. So to be able to hold those guys to have to force the kick or at least think about it on fourth down, that's what we need to do. And so, again, we came back today. We practiced today. We got animated a little bit in the meeting rooms on some of the day one mistakes. We got animated about the mistakes yesterday that we made as coaches, and it's back to work, man. Like no one feels sorry for us. Our kids understand that this is going to be a process, but we don't want to have it click week 8. We want to have it click right now, and so we're back to work. Urgency is there, and you got a big one this week. So,
Coach, I did want to ask about you mentioned Amari's pick 6. But, when you look at it from, both perspectives of the big plays, you said inexperience. Is it inexperience in the system or the fact that you've got, Amari's in there because Dex got hurt, right? So, there's a lot of guys, Nate Deans has played last year, but, is basically on the field all the time now. How much is it inexperience of the guys versus the system, or is it just a combination of both?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of both. And I would say it's probably the inexperienced part actually is probably more so when it comes from a conditioning standpoint. guys now playing 10 to 15 snaps last year to now having to play 40 to 50 to 60 snaps. And so that's why we've got to do a great job as a coaching staff of making sure we're rolling our guys through and giving them a blow. Sometimes it's just a mental break, especially at safety. It's just a 3-play mental break tonight. I don't have to make every check, every adjustment, whatever it may be. And then sometimes it's a physical break where, are we running as fast as we need to the ball and those types of things. So, defensive line-wise, we are really, really even at every spot. I mean, I think it was a 40-30 breakdown there in the 78 snaps that we had. So we did a really good job there. I think linebacker-wise, we probably got to roll a couple guys through more. Safety and corner, we got to roll a couple guys through more just because we need to play full speed. Defensive football is run and hit. And if we can't run full speed and we can't hit people hard because we're tired, that's where the big plays tend to happen. And then obviously, like I said, it's the experience in our scheme. Like I'm used to having guys safeties that have waited their turn for 2-3 years and finally get their shot. And we're going to get there. We're going to be there eventually. But those are going to be some of those growing pains now. And again, it's not excusable to all of a sudden the inexperience leads to a 54-yard touchdown pass. Like that's not it. Like it's execution. It's putting our guys in right spots. And both those things together that allow us to have some success on Saturday.
Now, obviously, Gavin Ennis went down, and then Jared France got hit a couple times and had to come out. Junior Adderland, 9 for 104 and a touchdown, spectacular catch, despite being pass interfered with, and shout out to Cam Zangle for getting the snap off, it being a free play because they had a defender in the neutral zone as well. But I was ready for Junior to be a guy that was in the mix from the get-go, and then we didn't see him in the first 2 weeks. Then all of a sudden, there he is, and he's looking like wide receiver number 1, like he looked like in camp.
Yeah. And again, that goes to the culture of our program. Like that's a guy that had a great spring, took 1 billion reps because we were banged up at the wide receiver spot. We come back, we're healthy. We have some experience there in France, in Gav, so he's got to wait his turn there a little bit. And he gets his opportunity and he balls out. And now, France is going to definitely be back and ready to rock and roll this week. And so to have him there and have Junior now, like that's what sometimes happens in some adversity and some challenges. You see guys step up and make plays, and now you're going to come back out of this thing even stronger. So I'm really excited for him and him continuing to grow and develop. Another young guy. Like we got a lot of young guys that are playing a lot of snaps right now. And so it's sometimes you take those bumps along the way, but I'm really excited to see these guys grow. And like I said, we got to click sooner than later. But just because I'm not going to be a guy that's just going to be happy like, oh, next year, like we got to do it. We got to figure it out now, and we will. So.
You mentioned the rotation along the D-line. JT Taylor is going to join us in a bit, but it is, you alluded to it, I mean, you don't have 3, you have 6, and you roll them through. Now, I was curious, they only seem to play with one another. Did the line changes ever emerge? I feel like the 3 and the 3 just stick together.
Yeah, we typically have had those guys just roll through. Sometimes like the mental gymnastics for me of getting the roll right, you know what I mean? Hey, this guy in at 3, that guy, sometimes that's just too much for me. So I've typically kind of kept those guys in that, but I definitely think there's room to change some things up a little bit more as we go. But they roll well together, and again, we're definitely not playing obviously as good as we need to from a defense standpoint, a defensive front standpoint. But you saw some guys start to take some steps, and again, it's unfortunately in a loss, it's another learning of, hey, when we do what we need to do, this is how scary good we can be. When we don't do what we need to do, this is how scary bad we can be. And there was a lot of that on Saturday.
Certainly a frustrating loss, but some bright spots. One of them will be JT Taylor, who will be joining us coming up. It's Scot Talk with head coach Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lodanosky. Back with more from Charlie's Pub and Eatery right after this. Back here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. You come in for the game this weekend. Make sure you stop by and tell Bill and Jen we said hello. JT Taylor joining us here on Scot Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lodanosky. Obviously, JT, not the result that you guys were after, but it did feel, Coach and I were just talking, it did feel that your group, the D-line group, is starting to kind of find a rhythm a little bit. What's it like to know that you only need about 35 snaps a game as opposed to, some schemes that they expect you to be out there for all of them. But you've got a three-man or a six-man rotation, three-man front. You guys seem to be playing well together.
Yeah, I mean, we work at it at practice every day. Like, I trust all those guys. We really work hard and just push each other to be, kind of the main forcing point in the defense. So it's our job. The game starts up front and it ends up front. So if we can dominate up front and get our jobs done, we should, have more successful outcomes.
Yeah, your group in particular, Nick Rossi, who played a lot last year, and obviously Caden Spiegel, who played a lot last year. Yourself, now Mo Webster, Sunday Kagawanu, and JT Wallach. Mm-hmm. He's moved inside now. That's how big of a jump has that been for him, and how much help have you been able to provide him making that switch?
I mean, he's still working at it, but he's doing a really good job making the transition. And every day at practice, just asking questions on what he can do better, what I see, and then also the other guys help him out too, like what Rossi sees and Speaks and all those guys. So just working as a collective to help the transition be a lot smoother, so we can get our jobs done.
Now you guys are especially up the middle, very inexperienced. Obviously Panucci, Morales, getting hundreds of times the snaps this year that they did last year. Mm-hmm. What's it been like having, obviously Nate Deans, obviously missing Dex. He was a guy that had played a lot last year. Mm-hmm. But, for the most part, the only experienced group is that D-line. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's that been like to try to get those guys to come along? Because, again, especially, Nate Deans in particular, mm-hmm. I mean, he played some. I think he played 5 games last year. But as Coach alluded to, he makes every call. What's it been like having a young guy like that being, so influential on the defense?
Just a lot of communication. I preach over communication at practice and in games, just so that we're all on the same page. It's funny you mentioned Nick Panucci. He's my roommate, so we watch a lot of film together, just working out kinks into what we need to do up front so that his job's a lot easier, and then also for the secondary as well. So, it's just a lot of communication across the board so we can, all be on the same page and execute to get our jobs done.
Carlos Morales had 13 tackles. He's trimmed down a lot. He looks great out there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is very difficult because all of the linebackers, Bogan, obviously, even Nate Ewell, that, part of that rotation. Mm-hmm. McCray's the only, quote-unquote, old guy that's been around. There's a lot of guys that are being asked to step up. Mm-hmm. When you look at it, because this is your second stop, obviously, mm-hmm. and, you now have had multiple coaches, what's it like, with that transition from, the language is everything is different from one guy to the next? How difficult is that element of a coaching change?
I mean, at the end of the day, football is football. Terminology changes from coach to coach, but at the end of the day, it's all X's and O's. And, once it gets drawn up, it's, our job to go out there and execute what our coaches asked us to do. So, I mean, it's not too difficult, but, it's definitely an adjustment at first. But once you get into a routine and a habit of just, understanding the lingo, hearing it more, it's day one stuff pretty much.
So, JT, I know that you've already done some student teaching and some substitute teaching last year. What is your plan? Are you going to stay in the area, go back to Pittsburgh? What's the prospects looking like? What's your plan? What's the goal?
I got to graduate first. That's a good
place to start.
That's the main goal right now. I'd love to stay in the area. I mean, ever since I got here, it's been awesome. The local school district, General McLean's great. And I also love the area. It's nice here, even though, it's only warm for 2 months out of the year. But
comes with the territory.
No, I mean, whatever opportunity, opens itself up, I'd be, happy to explore it. But for right now, just the plan is to, graduate in the spring and then also just, win games this fall. So,
Clarion up next. One could argue that Gershio is going to be the most dynamic quarterback that you guys face. I know it's only Monday. You probably haven't had a ton of time to watch film, but he did play last year. Maybe a nice prep with Riley, his willingness to run, but it will be a tough task for your group to keep Gershio in check because he can do it with both his legs and his arms.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to have to trust the game plan and, execute. Coach Scott, Coach Crandall, Coach Craig, and Coach Rivers, they're going to do their due diligence, making a good game plan, and we just have to go out there and execute it. The past 2 weeks we've been, 4 or 5 plays away from winning football games, and those 4 or 5 plays, really can, change the outcome. So as long as we can get out there and, execute, do our jobs, we should come out here with a win.
All right, it's JT Taylor joining us here. We will turn the page to the Golden Eagles when we come back when Coach Scott rejoins the program. It's Scot Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lodanosky. We're live at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Welcome back to Scot Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lodanosky. We get you ready for the Clarion Golden Eagles. We're live here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery, Route 99, just past the lake. Just talked to JT Taylor. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Gershio will be the most dynamic quarterback that you guys are set to face. Maybe Riley was a good prep for him, but boy, those Golden Eagles, they got her going right now, and they are scoring points at will on seemingly everybody.
Yeah, they're definitely going as he gets them going, and there's a lot of confidence in what he's doing, and they're just letting it rip. And the way they scored points for Shepherd last week was unbelievable. It was 24 points at the end of the first half, and they end up with 51 points to end the game. They just believe in that kid, and he plays. He's Baker Mayfield. That's what he reminds me of, is Baker Mayfield. You see him, the way you see him run, he runs exactly like Baker. He's the real deal for sure. So we're gonna have our hands full. I would probably say he's a lot more similar to Kutztown's quarterback than KJ. But he does a great job when the play breaks down. He's gonna extend it. He's very slippery. You see him a lot of times. He's in a phone booth and they can't tackle him. So he definitely gets them rocking and rolling. They believe in him. They let him spin it like it's second and long. They're going and throwing it down the field and seeing if one of their wideouts can go up and go make a play on the ball. So.
Yeah, they had 200-yard plus receiving wideouts last week, and Galon Simmons, not a ton of carries, a lot of yards, but had 4 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, they have a new offensive coordinator. Is the fly sweep still in play there, or is
you're still seeing some condensed formations, jet sweep, motion a little bit out of it, but you're definitely seeing coaches his brand of style of football and a little bit more open, a little more spreadish type stuff, and instead of that the old school kind of stuff they were doing last year.
Yeah, I mean it's a unique offense, and certainly that's one of those things where you mentioned that you had to go get your guy in Nico Marchitelli. It feels like Ray Monica's got his guy in Gershio. Watching some film on him, he just seems to be like the guy is the playbook. That offense is almost perfect for what skill set he brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean everything looks good there. It takes a ton of pressure off the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line legitimately at times is just like, don't get a holding call. You know what I mean? Like, all right, you get beat around the edge, try to give him a little nudge, and that Gershio is going to probably make that guy miss. Or, the biggest thing is obviously from a pass rushing standpoint, you've got to do a great job of not getting run by the quarterback, countering at the level, squeezing the pocket. You're seeing times like teams are going inside on him and not having to contain, and that's just a recipe for disaster. So you really got to avoid that. Keep him it's a win if he throws the ball from the pocket. So we got to really do a great job of forcing him to stay in the pocket. They've got 2 really good running backs. They have a couple good wide receivers. It's definitely going to be a challenge for sure. There's a reason why they're scoring a lot of points right now.
Now, obviously, the same bugaboo that has presented itself in all 3 of your outings. Running the football, the best. I know you're a defensive guy, but the best defense is keeping your offense on the field, running the football. In terms of what you saw against Bloomsburg, are you getting a better handle on identifying the problem? I know last week you said guys need to be more committed to just getting north and south. I thought that some of the runs, Jerry Dinkins in particular, was more committed to being a one-cut runner. Is it as simple as that to keep improving?
Well, we lost 30 yards rushing because of a couple of the sacks, and so that hurt us, obviously, to not look as productive in the run game. Obviously, when you're not in a one-score game, you're at 2 scores behind. You got to throw the ball a little bit more. I think, again, the biggest thing that I'm talking to my offensive staff is continuing to make sure that we're doing things that our guys can do. And so that's probably one of the biggest things I see from a run game standpoint that we need to improve. I think you'll see some different scheme from us a little bit here as we go into this week. We're going to find some different ways to get some more people involved and just continue to do things that we know our line is good at, that we know our backs are good at. Don't get away from it. You know, I think probably the biggest thing is we look at from last week, there's counter, there's duo, and we're running those for 7 yards a clip, and we only ran it 3 times for each of those plays. Like, we can't allow that to happen. We've got to make teams pay for not being able to get aligned to what we're doing, not being able to fit to what we're doing. Sometimes as coaches, we try to overthink things. Hey, if I run this too many times, they're going to – no, keep running it until they stop it. And so you'll see that this week when we find our couple plays that we're going to get after them with. We're going to continue to get after them with it, and then we're going to layer in some things that they're not going to be ready for it either. So I'm excited for this week. I had a really, really good meeting with our offensive staff on some things that we need to make sure that we're implementing. And I know Coach Griff, the one thing I love about him is like he's going to listen to you. He's going to try to do it the way you want it to be done, and he's going to find a way to spin it into how he does things, and he's done a great job of that, of a couple things that we need to add into what we're doing. So I'm excited to see what we're going to do here this weekend.
Obviously, Clarion, is 4-0. This would be just their second road game. We've only had the one home game. How good is it just going to be able to sleep in your bed and kind of have the normal routine, maybe take the dog for a walk in the morning. Being on the road, kind of stinks, right? And it takes everybody out of their element. How good is it going to be to get back into your element, and then maybe more importantly, get them out of their element?
Yeah, I mean, and again, anytime you can play at home, I think the other thing that's nice too is this is the second home game for us, because like for me, it almost felt like 3 road games because it was my first home game. Like, what's my routine? When I do this, when I do that, and so I'm going to be excited to kind of be back in Scots Harrison Stadium around our fans, a little bit more comfortable, definitely a lot better showing than our first home game. And then just for me as a family guy, like Fridays now I can hang out and see my family one more time and do those things, which is always good. So.
All right, got to give the people what they want. 3 reasons you win, 3 reasons you lose.
Yeah, the number one reason, obviously, we win is that we do a great job of not allowing Gershio to break our back with the scrambles. You know what I mean? We know there's going to be a couple zone reads here and there that he might pop out, but those 3rd and 7s where you can step up in the pocket and get 7 and get a first down, those will break your back. So doing a great job containing the scrambles, doing a great job in scramble rules. You're seeing teams with guys coming out of coverage, and then he just dumps it over your head. Like, can't do that type of stuff either. So doing a great job containing him, I think, is going to be a major key for us. Obviously, we've got to continue to do a great job and find a way to run the football and simplify it for Nico, so Nico doesn't feel like he's got to go out there and win the game, just throwing it all over the place. We've got to be able to run the ball this week, and then we got to win. We got to win on the 3rd downs and in the red zone. Like, 3rd down, it's got to be 3rd and 5 plus. Like, the problem that is most frustrating is you do a great job on 1st down, like a couple 2nd and 15 conversions last week, a couple 3rd and 9 plus conversions last week. Those break your back. So we've got to do a great job, and we've got offenses behind the sticks. We got to keep them behind the sticks, and then obviously offensively continue to do a great job of converting those 3rd downs, finishing drives. It was great to see Breslin get his first field goal last week. He's like, I mean, you talk about the confidence that kid has from day one of camp to now. I mean, he's booming them. I feel super, like 20-yard line and in, like we're going to see him out there ready to rock and roll. So I'm really excited about how he's developed as well.
All right, noon kickoff. Scots Harrison, the Golden Eagles come to town. Fighting Scots Radio Network presented by ErieInjury.com. 11 o'clock airtime, the pregame show built by Hobbs Lumber. Coach, appreciate you joining us as always.
Yes, sir. See you guys there. Go Burrow.
All right, until next time, it's Scott Talk with Matt Scott. I'm Joe Lodanosky. Thanks to the folks here at Charlie's Pub and Eatery. And when you're in town for the ballgame this weekend, stop by and say hello.